Alright, today I'm going to show you how to mix colors to create your color wheel. The first thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is label your color wheel, and also make sure you put your name on it, because these are going to look very similar. And if you don't put your name on it, it's going to be really hard to tell whose is whose. When you are labeling your color wheel, you want to make sure that the solid lines should represent the primary colors. And our primary colors are yellow, red, and blue. So you want to put those in, and then any color in between the primary colors should be made by mixing the primary colors. So when you mix red and yellow, you get orange. Blue and red is violet, and yellow and blue is green. So those are your secondary colors. Your tertiary colors are then made by mixing primary with a secondary color. So yellow plus orange would actually make yellow-orange. You want to say the primary color first. Orange and red would be red-orange. Red and violet is red-violet. Violet and blue is blue-violet. Blue and green is blue-green. And green and yellow is yellow-green. And then you should be able to very easily indicate primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now you are ready to mix. When you are painting, you'll need some supplies. You'll get a paint caddy, a container for water, a mixing palette, a paintbrush, and some paper towel. It's important that you have all of these things when you begin. When you first start, you want to think about the colors that you're mixing, and you always start with the lightest color first. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm going to mix it with blue to make my greens. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my paint. I'm going to take a couple of scoops of the yellow out of the paint container, and I'm just scooping with a brush and kind of scraping it off on the edge of the palette. And then because my paint or my brush is already full of yellow, I can take this yellow and paint my color. You want to use this not only as an exercise for color mixing, but you also want to use it as a practice for brush control. Going carefully around your edges, changing the direction so that you can see where you are painting, what you are filling in. Okay. Now I'm going to need to add some blue. So I do not want to take my yellow brush and put it into my blue container. That's going to contaminate those paints. All the mixing should be done on the palette. So before I get another color, I need to clean out my brush. The first step is to gently tap it on the bottom of the cup. By tapping it, you actually separate the bristles, and that is what helps you clean out the brush. So it's important that you tap that. And then you want to dry your brush with a paper towel, and when you dry it, you should be able to see no yellow. There was a little bit of yellow on the ferrule here, the metal part of the brush. So I'm going to do this just one more time to double check to make sure that it is clean. So when I squeeze it dry this time, there is no yellow paint. Now I am ready to add some blue. Now when you mix colors, it does not take very much dark color to change the light yellow. So I'm just going to use a very little bit. It's only on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to use that amount. I'm going to actually take a little bit off. Use that amount to mix with all of the yellow here. And you can see how this is turning into like a yellow green. Or a lime green. Now my concern is not that you have the correct color, because there's lots of variations of yellow-green, but I need to be able to see a change between the yellow and the yellow-green, the yellow-green and the green, and the green and the blue-green. And that is a definite change. Now to continue towards blue, I need to add some more blue. So I can't take this brush and put it in here. Again, I have to clean out my brush by tapping it on the bottom, separating those bristles, and then I kind of use the side of the cup to see what color water that is. That looks clear to me. So now I'm going to dab the bristles on the brush, or on the paper towel, This does two things. It keeps your paints from getting watery, and it's a good way to test to see if your brush is clean. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add this about the same amount of green or blue to it. And now I'm looking for a deeper green. As I start to mix here, it almost looks like a blue-green, but as I continue to get all of the color, all of that yellow part in, it turns into a pretty good green. And now I'm getting a lot less paint here too, so it's going to take less for me to mix. Now, here you can see a definite change as well. I need a little bit more paint. I'm starting to run short on my paint. One of the things you can do is just dip your brush in the water, and that will help the paint extend slightly. You don't want to make it to the point where it's watery and it's no longer opaque, meaning you can see the white paper coming through. But just that little dip helps me extend it enough to fill in that space. And then guess what? I have to wash one more time. Now this time, before I mix with the green, I'm going to take my blue on my brush and I'm going to paint this blue space. Again, being careful with my edges, working on brush control, and then I can go quicker on the inside. I like to turn my brush so that I can see my edges a little bit better. And I kind of push the brush down. I put the brush down, then I kind of pull it across. I'm not doing little swipes on the edges. I find it easier to do a neat line if I just pull it. Okay? Now I can go ahead and get a little more blue because that's all I have on my brush. Oops. And I don't have very much green over here, so I'm going to not use a whole lot of blue. But I want this to turn into a blue-green. And that is what I'm getting here with my mixing. You can see that there really is not that much paint here, but this will be enough for me to paint my little blue-green circle. Okay. Again, I'm going to just dip it in the water to make this paint extend a little bit. This one looks a little bit watery now, so I'm going to go back to my tray, get a little bit more ink, and fill this in all the way around. Okay. So now I have completed my whole section of green using only one well of my mixing palette. So you're going to do the same thing with the others. If you're mixing oranges, you're going to start with the yellow and add the red, work towards the red. And then with red and blue, blue is the darker color of the primaries. So I would start with red and slowly add blue to get back to my blue. Once you are finished, it is your job to clean up. One of the things you can do to help would be to clean your brush at your seat. As I wipe this out, I notice that it's clear water coming. I'm going to dab it in my paper towel, also clear. So now I know this brush is clean, I can just return it. Bristles up in the container. When I put my lids on, it's important to match them. This can contaminate the different colors if you don't put them on the right one. You also want to make sure you twist them down so that they are closed completely or the paint will dry out on us. And then you would go back to the sink, wash out your paint palette, dump out and rinse out your water container, and then finally you're going to put this on the correct side of the drying rack. Either this one would go on the one side because it's first hour. If your second hour, it goes on the second side.